The morning air was still, almost too still. It looked like a good day. But I've since learned to fear days that start too peacefully. I'm Jade Wellington. And what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story, it's a warning. I wanted to check if my car was ready for the journey. I stepped out and saw Victor scrubbing it like it owed him money. Sure, there were tough stains from our previous trip, and he'd promised he could handle them. But this? As I got closer, the shock hit me. He was scrubbing my car with bleach.
Victor! What are you doing?
I got the stain off.
You have ruined the paint.
No, the paint is still there. I only removed the stain.
He stood there, completely oblivious. The car's finish was dull, patchy, and in some places, stripped almost to the metal. My stomach twisted, not sure if it was from the fumes of bleach mingled with paint, or the blaze of anger rising from within.
Give me my keys and get out of my house!
What did I do wrong? I was only preparing the car for your journey.
What journey? You want to drive me with this empty skull of yours?
I stomped back into the house, throwing one last warning over my shoulder.
Don't let me come out here and see you again!
Please, boss, don't do this. I have nowhere to go.
I didn't care. Did he realize what a full repaint would cost? Foolish man. He even tried to get my wife to plead on his behalf, but she knew better than to step into the storm. Driving me was a privilege, one he just threw away. I got into the car and began the long drive to visit my parents in another city, alone. Somewhere along the way, I reached a fork in the road. One route was familiar, the other was Victor's preferred path. I never really understood why he liked it, and frankly, I no longer cared. He would never be driving me again. Still, I muttered a prayer for safe travels. I hope Pastor Emmanuel was interceding on my behalf too. He should be praying for me. That morning, Pastor Emmanuel had a vision. I was in an accident. When he couldn't reach me by phone, he raced to my house, only to find Victor weeping at the gate. The man was broken. Pastor felt for him, not just because he'd been my driver for 4 years, but because he was also a devout Christian. Things took a chilling turn. Pastor's vision seemed to be unfolding. He brought Victor back to his house, and together they prayed fervently. But all that echoed in Pastor's mind was life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. His lips trembled.
Ah, Lord, please have mercy. Whatever he did wrong, please have mercy.
They groaned and wept, crying for mercy, but heaven remained still. It felt as though my fate had already been carved in stone. The accident was inevitable. Death loomed close. But I had no reason to feel dread. I'd never harmed anyone before, so why should harm find me? The road was deserted, hushed like it was holding its breath. I knew this wasn't travel season, and this town had never cared much for bustle. So my foot pressed heavier on the gas without thinking. As I approached a curve, cloaked in shadow, something caught my eye. A bus in a car, awkwardly still, like chess pieces left mid-game. Not wrecked, not quite abandoned. They didn't look like victims of an accident. No, their silence whispered of force. Police? I thought so at first, but then I saw the glint. Gunmen. I reached for the brake, hand twitching toward reverse, but the mirror betrayed me. Reflected back was the yawning mouth of an assault rifle. Its bearer, a tall man, skin like carved onyx, approached soundlessly, as if drawn from a nightmare I hadn't yet dreamed. I never heard a command, but my body obeyed. Hands up, door open, feet on ground. He herded me with the others, 5 men lying face down on the gravel like offerings to a wrathful god. 3 armed men held the scene, but one stood out. He had no urgency, just a pistol hanging lazily in one hand, smoke curling from his lips with obscene calm, as if danger wasn't in what he did, but in what he didn't need to. I emptied my pockets like the rest. My wallet tumbled open at his feet, and for a moment the wind seemed to hesitate. He bent, eyes narrowing at my driver's license.
Jade Wellington. He said my name, and somehow it struck louder than the gun.
I looked up. He looked down. Something shifted.
The son of Mr. Wellington, principal of St. Thomas High.
There was a pause. A line, just before thunder hit. I couldn't tell if I should feel honored or hunted. But then he said it.
Your father ruined my life. This is the boy, yes, the son of the man who vowed to destroy me. And he did. He truly did.
The calm, coiled shadow was gone. In his place was something wild, raw. Fury cracked through his stillness like a blade.
You've walked into death today. Cassette said so.
Oh my God! It was Cassette. The name struck like a thunderclap, louder than memory, sharper than myth. Even years later, it echoed in the halls of his old school like the ghost of something untamed. Back then, Cassette had been a storm bottled in a school uniform, a rebel spirit, always scaling fences and vanishing into the city's murk. They'd find him in places drenched with smoke and beer, recklessly spilling money he never earned in any honest way. And he wasn't just wandering, he was recruiting. Other boys began trailing behind him like moths to a streetlight. They paraded through the town, still in their uniforms like a defiant procession. Word reached the school's head, my father, and he responded like a man scorned. One morning assembly, he snapped the leash, dragged Cassette and his growing entourage before the entire school, and lashed them until the air itself recoiled. They begged, they bled. Dread turned to disgrace, and in that moment, Cassette's wings were clipped. But humiliation births revenge. Some days later, my father wailed like a wounded animal. Salt water. That was Cassette's vengeance, filling the car's engine with brine until it choked and died. A whole year's salary dissolved in a single act of teenage spite. I saw my father unravel that day. A man of the cloth, fists clenched and lips trembling, wishing with every breath that it were legal to kill. But he didn't cross that line, not outwardly. He expelled the boys and made sure no school nearby would admit them. Letters were sent, heads were nodded, doors closed. Cassette was erased, or so my father thought. But not everyone agreed with his crusade. My mother, Mrs. Wellington, saw it differently. To her, it was excessive, even cruel. The argument that followed shattered the quiet faith between them.
Expel him if you must, but must you ruin the boy's entire life?
He ruined mine first. Do you know what I lost? A full year's labor. Gone.
And what if he grows up worse because of your vengeance? Will you sleep better knowing you lit the match?
Oh, Madam Holiness. Maybe when you start paying engine bills, you'll understand what loss tastes like.
It isn't loss that changed you. It's your father's shadow. The same man who cursed lives with a smile and slept soundly beside their ruin. The Otter Wizard. His blood, his rage, his wicked legacy. You've inherited it whole.
Then it came, a slap, sharp and sudden, snapping her into silence. Her pupils quivered, and the light in her eyes flickered like a dying candle.
Don't you ever speak of things you do not understand.
He growled, trembling now, more beast than man. She stepped back, not out of fear, but out of disbelief.
15 years I've stood beside you, and this is who you truly are? Striking me over a boy?
You're the devil with words that pierce like swords.
Then he turned and walked into the darkness of his own making. That night was the first I saw the crack in their glass, the kind that never quite disappears. And now, years later, the boy who had been banished from our world stood before me, armed and reborn. Casset. I was face to face with the monster my father had forged. The ghost he thought he buried now reached from the grave, its hand cold and vengeful, clawing at the world he left behind. Casset paced, chewing his lip with twitchy anticipation. His eyes scanned the road, but I knew they always returned to me. Even if I gain nothing from today, your death will please me more than 10 wraps of weed. That's when I knew I wasn't walking out of that place alive. My head dropped. My lips moved without sound. A prayer rose, not for escape, not even for justice, just mercy. 2 shots cracked the silence like bone. Twin bursts of fire tore through my back, searing pain fanning out like wings. I collapsed. Grass brushed my cheek. Footsteps thudded, quick and light, rustling through the undergrowth until they faded into hush. Warmth drained from my limbs like the sun slipping beneath the earth. Mercy, Lord. Only mercy.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mercy, the pregnant doctor. That wasn't a nickname, just the name people gave to any woman in scrubs with a swelling belly. A strange badge of honor in the corridors of medicine. But I couldn't stay home. I was alone there, and everyone I cared about was here, at the hospital. Favor, my colleague and closest friend, tilted her head when she saw me walk in.
Shouldn't you be home? Resting?
Resting to do what? My husband's gone to work. I've watched so much TV, my eyes feel like dry stones.
You carry this job like a cross. Even Christ took breaks.
She meant well, but she'd hit a nerve. I turned away slightly, my voice low. You don't know my story.
What story? Or you just enjoy working like a wall clock? Always ticking, no pause.
I didn't answer. The silence between us stretched until it made her nervous.
Mercy, is something wrong?
I looked up slowly, my eyes far away. Do you think I was ever meant to be a doctor? You think this was some childhood dream? No. This profession isn't a dream come true, it's something I became. Against all odds, because of one woman. Mrs. Wellington, head of the science department.
That name again.
She didn't just teach biology, she shaped lives. And without her, there would be no Dr. Mercy. Favor leaned in as I began to speak, the usual sparkle in her eyes dimmed by curiosity and quiet respect. I was in my final year of high school when everything nearly collapsed.
I told her how I'd been caught cheating during the mock examinations, a desperate, shameful moment born from fear and exhaustion. The disciplinary committee didn't spare me. Expulsion was the sentence. Cold, swift, undebatable. So I ran to Mrs. Wellington. She was part of the committee too. I poured everything out to her, my unpreparedness, my weakness in the subject, my guilt. And somehow she saw through the panic to something deeper. Using her authority as head of department, she negotiated for me to repeat the class instead. But she did more than pull strings. She put her reputation on the line. If I slipped up again, the consequences would fall on her. But the root of the problem hadn't vanished. My family was so poor that even the thought of repeating a school year felt like watching a fragile roof cave in. Education was a privilege we could barely afford once. Twice was unthinkable.
Mrs. Wellington saw that too. She didn't just patch over the mistake. She rewrote my foundation. She began paying part of my school fees from her own pocket. After school, she tutored me herself, sometimes staying out so late it worried her own family. She became more than a teacher. She became something close to a second mother. When I told her about hawking goods after school, she confronted my parents. She got them to stop it. Then she started bringing me food before our sessions. Only then did she realize that half of my struggle was hunger, malnourishment, trying to understand textbooks with an empty stomach and heavy feet. The turnaround was stunning. I went from barely passing to topping biology. And that spark spread to chemistry, physics, math. Soon I told her I wanted to become a doctor. She didn't just applaud the dream. She nurtured it, fed it, lit the road ahead. That's how I'm here, I said, looking down at the curve of my belly and then at Favor. A doctor, in a state hospital, carrying life inside me. Because someone once refused to give up on mine. Favor said nothing for a moment.
Now I know why you wear this job like a second skin.
Because someone taught me how to believe in impossible things.
Favor gave me a sly smile, arms folded and eyes glinting with mischief.
Interesting story. I'm happy for you.
You should be. I knew she was secretly thrilled to have me around, her personal assistant in scrubs, the only doctor at her beck and call, a spare wheel she never hesitated to use.
The afternoon blurred into its usual rhythm until the sudden ring of the trauma line sent a hush through the corridor. An ambulance was calling in, armed robbery at a roadside stop, casualties unknown. The director was already on edge.
Tell them no doctors available. We're stretched thin as it is.
Favor pressed her intercom button with all the calm in the world.
Hey, I've got one here getting in my way. Come and fetch her for free, and no need to return her.
There was a crackle on the other end. It's a robbery.
The scene's been cleared, but we've got a gunshot victim.
I froze. Gunshot. The word thudded into my chest like a second heartbeat. My hands instinctively cradled my belly. Every part of me screamed that I shouldn't go. But the oath I took didn't have an escape clause for pregnancy. I was a doctor, and that meant I went where I was needed, even if fear was the only thing holding me upright. So I nodded. I'll go, because medicine at its core is a promise, one that doesn't retreat, not when there's pain, not when there's blood. Not even when it might be someone I once knew lying there waiting.
We arrived at the scene to find a few officers crouched beside a man sprawled on the roadside, face down. His shirt was soaked through, blood darkening the fabric like oil. One look at the expressions of the first responders told me everything. They didn't believe he had a chance. I moved closer, knelt beside him, and pressed my fingers to his neck. His pulse was faint, a thread. He was dangling on the edge of death.
Will he make it?
He's got less than 5 minutes.
So, what do we do?
Well, unless someone can get him blood immediately.
We don't have blood on site.
And we don't even know his type. I sighed and threw my hands up, frustration pulsing in my throat. That was the problem. They finally understood.
Maybe he's a driver. Might have a license on him. Could list his blood type.
It was a stretch, but something flickered in me, a shred of hope. I raised a brow, at least they were still trying. The search didn't take long. A bystander found a wallet lying a few feet away, half buried in dirt. They handed it to me, and I opened it, bracing myself for what I might find inside. Not just blood type, but identity. My eyes locked on the name before anything else. Wellington. It practically shouted at me from the card. A second later, I spotted her name, Mrs. Wellington, as next of kin, printed neatly beneath it. My breath caught. This wasn't just any victim. This was family, not by blood, but by bond. By love. By mercy shown to me when I had nothing to offer but failure.
Is everything okay?
The bad news is that he has a rare AB negative blood type. The worst news is that he's my family.
So, what's the good news?
I didn't answer. What good could there be? Here I was, a helpless, pregnant doctor in the middle of nowhere. I had neither the power to heal nor the right to sacrifice. I couldn't give life, and yet I couldn't bear to let it go. Then her face came to me. Mrs. Wellington, smiling, always smiling. That quiet kind of strength that needed no words. The woman who gave and never asked for anything back. She'd laid down her life for me in more ways than one. Now it was my turn. You can take blood from me. There was a beat of silence, then an eruption. What?
Madam, no, we can't allow it, not in your condition.
You mean you'd rather let him die?
But think of your baby. Your life's at risk.
We don't have time for this debate. I've made my decision. One of the officers stepped forward hesitantly, holding a clipboard.
Then we'll need your signature, a release, in case you're not here to explain.
My hands trembled. I thought of my baby, of the life inside me, and I thought of Mrs. Wellington, of her prayers, her hands, her faith. I signed. We will not die, I whispered inside. Not today, not like this. The transfusion began in the back of the ambulance. I'd called Favor ahead to get the blood bank prepped, but from the moment she heard my voice, I could practically feel her disbelief through the phone. But there was no room for hesitation now. The line was in, and my blood, my lifeline, flowed into Jade Wellington. At first, everything was steady. Then came the breathlessness, a slow, creeping weight in my chest, my vision blurred at the edges. Thankfully, we were already nearing the hospital, and by the time the dizziness reached its peak, I was on oxygen. Through the spinning haze, I held on to one thought. Stay with me, Jade. And he did. Even unconscious, his body fought. The bullet, by some miracle, had missed every vital organ. When we scanned him, it was clear. He needed surgery, yes, but it was survivable. He just had to wake up. That he'd lived through a close-range shot felt almost impossible, almost. But maybe some stories are too tangled with fate to be unraveled by a single bullet.
Jade's family began to arrive at the hospital in waves of worry and prayer. His wife appeared first, followed closely by his pastor and driver. Their footsteps echoed with urgency as they approached the front desk.
Where is he? Is he okay?
His wife asked, breath catching with every word. Dr. Favor met them halfway.
And you are?
I'm his wife, Mr. Jade's wife.
Your husband survived the gunshot, but barely. He's alive. Thanks to a brave doctor who donated her own blood when it was most needed.
A collective breath was released. Relief mixed with disbelief washed over their faces.
Where did it happen?
On the old highway.
He shouldn't have taken that road. I never drove him through there. Too many robberies and strange occurrences.
So you'd been his guard all along?
I wouldn't say that exactly, but I tried to keep him safe.
Hump. And yet he dismissed his actual guard, only to walk straight into danger?
Favor quietly slipped away while Jade's family waited anxiously for him to regain consciousness. By the second day, he stirred, and just around that time, Mr. and Mrs. Arkin Wellington had arrived at the hospital. It was a heartwarming moment to see Mrs. Wellington after so many years.
I introduced her to my husband, who offered his gratitude, though it was clear the gratitude came tinged with unspoken worry. After all, his wife and unborn child had been nearly sacrificed to save her son. Not long after, Jade finally gathered enough strength to speak. The room grew still as his father leaned in.
How did it happen, son?
It was Cassette.
You mean Cassette from St. Thomas High School?
Yes,
Can you identify the robber?
I can. He wasn't just a robber, he was my father's student. Or maybe his enemy.
I expelled him years ago.
You didn't just expel him. You made sure he never rose again. You crushed him. You made the monster.
But is all that relevant now?
Wait. Are we saying the same man who shot Jade is the same boy you expelled?
Yes.
What a steep price for unforgiveness.
Tears welled in Mrs. Wellington's eyes as she turned toward me, her arms wrapped around me in a trembling hug.
It's not for my daughter. Oh, it's not for her. Dr. Mercy, giving her blood in that condition. You saved my son. You saved me from becoming a damaged old woman.
Indeed. Life for life, eye for eye. Thank you, Lord, for your mercy.
Yes. Thank God for Dr. Mercy.
Should we place all the blame on Grandpa? Mr. Jade had a role too. You fired your driver over a scratch on the car. A man who's kept you safe for years.
I should have known. Victor would never have taken that road.
Isn't it you who taught us in Bible class about how John the Baptist lost his head because he first despised the Lord that could have saved him? Matthew 11. Perhaps today you've heard your own sermon.
But why? I didn't raise you like that.
It's the devil.
Cassette and his gang were eventually apprehended. But instead of gloating or vengeance, Mr. Arkin Wellington saw in that moment a chance to right an old wrong. He visited Cassette in custody, shared the gospel with him, and extended a hand of grace. Against all odds, Cassette gave his life to Christ. Through Mr. Wellington's persistent advocacy, the court reduced the charges. Instead of armed robbery, Cassette was convicted of illegal possession of a firearm and accidental discharge. He served 3 years behind bars, a sentence far lighter than what had once loomed over him. But his story didn't end there. After his release, Mr. Wellington, with Jade by his side, invested in Cassette's future. They helped him start anew as a farmer on a generous plot of land just outside the city. With time, sweat, and guidance, Cassette became one of the region's most successful agricultural producers. As for Jade, one of his first acts after leaving the hospital was reuniting with his longtime driver. The embrace was wordless, but heavy with meaning. Trust rebuilt itself in quiet gestures. And so, from fractured pasts and near tragedies came forgiveness, redemption, and a peaceful kind of joy. They all, in time, lived happily ever after.